Hi Superstars! Thanks so much for spending this time with me today. I'm Debbie Starr, the writer of In the Waiting, which is found at debbiestarr.com. It's where I share my story of going from doing movie marathons to running half marathons. And Superstars, today I am going to talk to you all about my 10th half marathon, which is amazing and completely awesome, and it just is a testimony of how good God is that I am sharing with you all about running my 10th half marathon. What once I thought was like impossible, I now know that anything is possible with God, and nothing is impossible for him. And so it's an awesome achievement on so many levels. So I'm trying not to make this video too long, but if it goes a little long, you'll know why, because there's lots of good stuff there. And again, it's amazing to now, after this marathon, I won't be able to count on both hands of all the races that I've done, because this one I ran in Gary, Indiana. So it was my 10th half marathon, my 7th state. And it's totally awesome. I don't know if you can see here, but it has gold bling all the way around it and gold glitter, and it's awesome. It's got, a picture of the ocean, or not the ocean. It looks like the ocean while you're there, but actually it's of Lake Michigan, but just the sand and the waves crashing and all that stuff. It's just so therapeutic. I love being around any beautiful large bodies of water with the beach. Take me anywhere to the beach and I love it. So anyways, this was a totally awesome race. So I'm going to be talking all about it. How this race came about is basically I was looking into different states that I could drive to around the area and see what was available. And so in the state of Indiana, I had a lot of people that suggested and said, hey, you should really do the one of the races that kind of goes around in the NASCAR. I'm not really into NASCAR, to be honest. I'm sure it was a totally cool race. I'm sure that people totally dig it to be able to say that they ran where the cars, on the racetrack and all that kind of stuff, where the Indy 500 is always taking place and stuff like that. But that's just really not my thing. But all you who know me know that music and movie is totally my thing. So when I started thinking about Indiana, I immediately thought of Gary, Indiana, because Gary, Indiana is where Michael Jackson, his home, it was when he was a kid and grew up in. And so I always in the back of my mind knew that someday I was going to go and make it to Gary, Indiana, so that way I could check out Michael Jackson's house. So that's kind of how, when then searching online, I found out that this Beyond the Beach race, which I'll go ahead and take this off, but the Beyond the Beach race was right there in Gary, Indiana, which was awesome. So I was like, that's totally scored. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. So leading up to this race though, I gotta share with you Superstars, I had a lot of people that said, oh, you shouldn't go. I had a lot of things come up that was possibly gonna keep me from running this race. But I persevered, I stayed determined, and I'm so glad I did, because it ended up being an amazing, completely different race than ever before. And every race is different. Every race, I feel like God talks to me personally and teaches me something of each time while I'm there. And this was just a totally awesome race. So the day before, so I should also tell you, this was totally different because I traveled alone too. Most of my races that I go to, if you watch my videos, that my amazing husband comes, and so does my kids. And so they're my fan club. My husband does all of the cinematography. He records my videos of before and after, when I'm coming in, getting my bling and all that good stuff. So most of the videos that you see on my YouTube channel is all done by him, except for these ones that I do one-on-one chatting with you. So I was traveling by myself, and I also was going to spend the weekend there, because I just decided that, I think I've shared with you before, that I like to do time alone with God and have like a God date every time of season, like the beginning of the seasons. So it just so happened that when I was doing this race in September, that it was right before fall. And so I really felt like it was time for me just to do this God date, and it landed that weekend. So I decided to do that. So the day before, on my way into town, I stopped off. The first thing I did when I got there in Gary, Indiana, was to go see Michael Jackson's home. And so I had a lot of people that was all nervous and like, Debbie, you shouldn't go there. You especially shouldn't go there by yourself, being a woman in the middle of the, but I use wisdom. I think that with anything, you have to be spirit-led. You have to use wisdom. So I knew that God has protected me. He's taken me halfway around the world and back. I've traveled to Kenya and back. I've been to Belize and back and things like that on missions trips. And so I know that God's going to protect me going to Gary, Indiana and back. Okay. And I obviously though, if I didn't have peace about it, I would not have gone. However, I had total peace that God was with me. He was taking care of me, and I'm so glad he did. And it was just confirmation after I went that God was with me. So when I went to Michael Jackson's house, it's super cool to pull in there. And just to see this small, tiny little house that in the house that was there and the one next to it, I guess is what they upgraded to later on. And then of course, it's amazing to know the legacy that he left behind of like, eventually he built Neverland. So, you know, he might've started in these super small, humble beginnings, but because of his determination, because of him working so much on his craft and being the amazing entertainer that he was to all of us, all of his life, literally dedicated his entire life to entertaining all of us and bringing us so much joy through his music and through his art. It was just amazing to see that. And so while I was there though too, there were so many different markings. Everybody had made their mark, you know, they wanted to come there and leave their mark behind. And so there was that little part of me that I totally wanted to do it too. I wanted to write Superstar or Starr somewhere, but I also was like, no, I don't want to be graffiti, because literally like all over the signs, the street signs, the sidewalks, everything, like there was a place to write. People were writing their names, or, you know, so-and-so is here and the dates and all that kind of stuff. But then I just so happened to be walking along, and there on the concrete was Starr. Somebody had already been there before me with 2 R's too. So it's Starr was on there. And so I sat down next to it, took a picture, and I just took it as a little God wink of just saying, you know, thanks God that someone there, I don't know who the star was or who the superstar that was there before me, but happened to make their mark. And so I was able to get that satisfaction of seeing the star there and get my picture taken next to it. But anyway, so that ended up being a totally awesome, fun-filled day. But then that night I went back to the hotel room and I had my God time. And during that God time, I was finishing up a book by T.D. Jakes called Starr. And so in this book, as I was reading it, you know, because I'm all about like personal growth, and of course, as God's taken me through this spiritual journey, it's just, I learn more, and the more I can feed myself up and learn and better myself, then it's also the more I get to share with all you superstars. So, and to keep ourselves shining bright, right? So that we don't get burnt out and start dimming our lights. So a super totally awesome thing was as I was reading through this, one of the chapters called Flight Crew, he talks all about the importance of the people that we surround ourselves with, and how it's important along our journey that we have different people who he talks about that are supporters, people that are advisors, and people that are mentors. And so as I was reading through that, I just said a personal prayer to God, and I just thank God for those people that are in my life, who have been amazing supporters and who have been able to go to and get advice from, and those people that have been mentors to me. But in some walks of my life, in some parts of my journey, especially along my health journey, I don't have a lot of those personal one-on-one that I really have around me. And so it was a prayer that I prayed and said, okay, God, can you please send mentors into my life? I really need people who've been there, done that, who are farther along on this health journey than I am, that I can partner with, and that are Christian, that love God and have a heart for you and know what I'm trying to do, and that I can then get with them and get advice from them, and just to be able to know how to do things better and to not fall into the same things that they did, or just get the tips and tricks and that kind of thing. So I prayed this prayer that night. And so, you know, had my God time and everything was great. Went to bed that night, got up the next morning, went to the race. And of course I started off videoing by myself and started off the race all by myself. But within the first mile, we were noticing it's like a brand new race. I think this race has only been a couple years. And so the markings weren't really that great on the road in a couple of the spots. So at the very beginning, the first part, me and a couple of gals were like, are we going in the right direction? Are we going the right way? You know, not really for sure. And so as I started running, me and this gal started chatting as we were chatting back and forth, you know, it just, conversation was just like, God, open up doors. We just started, you know, speaking to each other and encouraging one another. And it was just so cool. And as we were chatting, it was like everything I had prayed for the night before, God had started to answer through her. And so there was different things that we talked about. We talked about so much. I ended up running this entire race with her, which most of you know that I love my running time alone by myself. So to be running with somebody else, I've only ever run another race with one time with my girlfriend, Angie, and Jody when I was in Iowa a couple years ago. So most of my races, I run solo. I don't run with people. And even when I'm training, I don't run with people. I run solo, you know? So, but I just knew that God had in my spirit, you know, had talked to me in my spirit that I have answered the prayer, so you can take this and enjoy this journey, enjoy this race, or you can just blow it off and keep going and just go get that perfect time that you're wanting and better and all this kind of, you know, busyness that I'd gotten myself into. But as we were chatting, as Danielle and I were talking, she really started to remind me of enjoying the journey. she really started to remind me to stop and slow down and, you know, smell the roses and to enjoy the journey and not just be so focused on the next step, the next step, the next step. And so we were able to chat, and come to find out she was on a health journey, also had lost a ton of weight, a lot of it through the love of running. She also had the goal of running half marathons in all 50 states before she turned 50, which she was about to turn 50. And so she only had like 2 or 3 races left in order to be able to get her 50 in all 50 states. So it was totally cool to chat with her and about all the different races and the different states she had gone to. I have started to eat more of a natural, whole food, plant-based diet. Most people call it vegan or whatever, but basically for me, there's many different reasons why people eat vegan. For me, it's more for health and more of like along the Daniel fast of what is in the book of Daniel, and just being more disciplined in my eating and how I take care of my body and those kind of things, the way I'm fueling my body. And so I was able to chat with her all about that because she had gone through a journey also of once going, you know, straight vegan and no cheese and no this and no that. And, you know, she was able to share with me the great things that had happened and how powerful our mind is, and how when we make our mind up and we're doing something, how God will do it. Won't he do it? That he will do it. He'll deliver us and he's going to help us get there. But also that it's about balance, and how, you know, she then shared with me too, that going to parts of her journey that, and just kind of share with me. So all those things I had prayed about the night before and asked God, you know, hey, I need somebody in my life to kind of share this with. She was able to share that with me. And the super cool thing is we talked about so many things. We literally had church that morning because it was a Sunday morning that this race was. And we were out there, and as I was running too, there was different parts that we were all by ourselves. Like there was big parts of this. It went through the city. The race kind of started off going through the city and the different parts of a park that it's at by the water, by Lake Michigan. And then it went through the city and like the neighborhood. And then it went out into like a big, basically like, I don't know, they wouldn't call it brackish water, but it's more of like where the mossy kind of areas. It's more of where it's all sand. It's kind of mossy. It's where that water is coming up into kind of the woods area. And, so there was lots of miles that was just trail running, and it was on sand, which was something that I had never done before either. Most of my races have all taken place on concrete and through the streets and things like that. So this is the first time I was ever done any type of trail running, things like that. So I was literally running through some of these miles and if I had not listened to and realized and recognized the Holy Spirit, that this was an answer to prayer, and to stay with her, and that we were going to have this awesome conversation, and our conversation just got better and better the more that we were together. If I had stayed so focused on getting this quick time and all that, I would have totally missed out on that few hours that I had of hanging out with her. And so it was super cool of going through miles and miles of some of that time where it was like a half hour, 40 minutes before we saw anyone. But God gave us that opportunity to be able to speak and to talk openly and just kind of share things with each other, which was amazing. And that's how I know that this was like a God invitation, like a God invite, that God put this together, was because we were able to just talk, and I was able to share things with her I haven't shared with people for a long time, or I don't know that I've even shared with a lot of people. And, you know, when you're going through a journey like this, there's some things that are just, nobody else is going to get it unless they've been there, unless they've done that, unless they've gone through it. And so that's what I hope to pour out and to share with you, superstars. And that's the whole point of why I started this YouTube channel, was to share with others, to encourage you to keep going. Well, I also need that myself. You know, I also need to have people that have gone down this journey before me that I'm able to learn from, and to be encouraged and things like that, you know, as iron sharpens iron. And that's exactly how I felt the whole time that we were together, and then afterwards. But it was great. We had great conversation about fear. And that was the biggest conversation that really came up, that I really took away from all the stuff that we had talked about. And one of the things, before I even went to this race, before I even traveled to Gary, Indiana by myself, for months leading up to the race, I had lots of people try to instill their fear into me of why I should not go and why I should not go by myself. It was all about, oh, this place isn't safe and blah, 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 blah. And they only were talking and only focusing in on the negative. Let me tell you, there were some beautiful beach houses. I mean, the way that a lot of people were negatively describing the place that I was going to, that was all poverty, it was all lots of crime and all this kind of stuff, and like all this, like a single woman should not be traveling by herself to blah, blah, blah. There were some parts of that, but that wasn't all of it. That's not all of it. But so easily people can taint things by this. They focus so much on the negative that they totally like try to make that erase all the good and all the positive. And you know what? That's what's what's a big problem with this world today is so many people focus on the negative and that they give that more power than what they do the positive. And let me tell you, there's some beautiful beach houses or beautiful neighborhoods that we ran through that I was like, okay, there's people were completely blind. They obviously had, if they had ever traveled to Gary, Indiana, they did not see these parts of it because they were beautiful butterfly gardens and beautiful like 2-3 story houses that overlooked the water. That those neighborhoods were gorgeous. And so, but had I listened, had I allowed the fears of, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't go and all this kind of stuff. And I had people tell me, yo, you better pack in protection, better have things with you and all that kind of stuff. And even some of those negative voices, people that were like, oh, I'm from Indiana and I wouldn't be traveling there. I wouldn't. And they were telling my husband, I wouldn't let my wife travel to those places, blah, blah, blah. So, then my husband started saying, well, maybe you should think about this, but as my husband thought about it and knows me and knows that I'm not going to just go put myself into a negative situation, he got the peace of God. I got the peace of God. And so I'm so thankful, Superstars, that I did not allow that fear to creep in because I would have totally missed out on running my 10th half marathon. I would have totally missed out on seeing the beautiful beaches of Gary, Indiana. And the state parks that are there is awesome. It was amazing that after the race, and that we had this time together and ran through and finished. It seemed like the time just went so quick too, of just running and talking and all that kind of stuff. It just went by so much quicker than a lot of other races had. And afterwards I was able to take off my shoes and go down and walk in the sand and get in the nice cool water. And it was just such beautiful therapy. It was awesome. It was exactly like what I felt like I needed after all of that. And God just opening my eyes to remember and reminding me to enjoy the journey, that in the waiting journey, there's some time in between of when we set our goals and when we actually reach them and achieve them. And that in between time, we have to enjoy it. We have to remember why we started. We have to give ourselves credit for what we've already done, celebrate those things and enjoy it. Otherwise, if we don't take the time to party and to enjoy it and to celebrate that, we're going to burn out. We're going to think of all this time that we still have to go and not realize how far we've already come. And that's where I believe a lot of people they quit. They get tripped up and they get discouraged and then they just quit and they lose then all of what they have already achieved instead of keeping going. And so anyway, Superstars, this was what my amazing journey was on this race. It was totally different than all the other races before. And I'm so thankful that I'm able to chat with my new friend from California. And I've never ran a race yet in California. And so someday, who knows, I really hope and pray that God will connect us together again and that we'll be able to run another race together. And maybe it will be my first race in California, but only God knows. But I'm super excited for what the future holds. And I'm super excited that I'm now able to say I've ran 10 half marathons in 7 states. And I'm super excited of the amazing weekend that I had alone, or just like me and God and just being renewed and having all, mind, spirit, body, everything refreshed and renewed. And so anyway, Superstars, that was my 10th half marathon. So I hope this video blessed you. I hope it encouraged you. If so, give it a like, share it with others that, that they can use the encouragement or hear the story of it. And I highly recommend this. Is a beautiful scenery of a race. So if you're ever looking for a half marathon in Gary, Indiana, definitely go online, check out Beyond the Beach. I think it's beyondthebeach.com, and you'll be able to sign up for the race and do it all there. So, because the Indiana sand dunes are beautiful. It was my first time ever seeing anything of the Indiana sand dunes. And I definitely will be going back and taking my family because it was an awesome, totally cool experience. So anyway, Superstars, my prayer always for you is that you will be patient and make healthy choices while you are in the waiting.